Imagine a world where everyone had access to the deepest content of each other's minds, the memories, thoughts, and even feelings each person carries. Have you ever wondered how this possibility would change the way we live, relate to others, and make decisions? What if I told you that a mysterious technology exists that could allow exactly this? A technology that, according to a renowned doctor, should be kept secret. This doctor not only investigated this innovation, but was also crucial in its development and the profound studies on the mysteries of the human mind and its untapped potential. History shows us that technological advancements often emerge shrouded in mystery and are met with skepticism. Just think about how the telephone 200 years ago might have seemed like magic. Now, imagine an innovation with similar transformative potential, capable of connecting us to a shared geomagnetic field across all minds. This doctor, through his research, has already reached impressive discoveries. But are we ready to handle the implications of a technology of this kind? Before we continue, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any content. The geomagnetic field and mental communication. Implications for humanity. The Earth's geomagnetic field, an invisible force that surrounds and connects us, might serve as a channel for communication between minds. Some scientists already point to this possibility, indicating that this field could be harnessed to transmit information from brain to brain. And the most astonishing part, this technology could be accessible to anyone who learns to use it. It might seem like magic now, but remember, the telephone and television were also once seen as inexplicable miracles. But what would happen if Earth's magnetic field could become the medium for a connection between minds? Government agencies appear determined to keep certain discoveries under wraps, and whenever the truth threatens to emerge, it is quickly dismissed, labeled a conspiracy theory, and forgotten. Does the knowledge we access truly have the power to transform us? And if so, could a connected humanity be seen as a threat to those agencies? Revolutions occur when people become educated and aware. Throughout history, totalitarian regimes and dictatorships have restricted access to information and literacy, understanding that with knowledge, control becomes tenuous. Imagine an era where global knowledge was available to everyone, with no intermediaries. An era where anyone could understand the intentions and plans of others. Would there still be space for extreme inequalities? Would there be power as we know it? Neuroscientist Michael Persinger, a pioneer in studying brain and magnetic field interactions, offers us a glimpse of what might be on the horizon. With decades of research and over 100 published articles, Persinger suggests that the 7 billion human brains form a vast conductive network immersed in Earth's magnetic field. A network that could theoretically store the thoughts and experiences of all humanity. Imagine a scenario where billions of interconnected minds could share experiences and ideas. It would be like accessing humanity's collective knowledge at any time. This scientific knowledge supports what many spiritual theories already assert. We are all connected, and we are part of God. From this principle originates all our manifestation power. If you believe you are part of God and can manifest everything you desire, comment, "I am part of the whole. I am a divine being." Ancient wisdom and the concept of the collective mind. Historically, the idea of mental connection is not entirely new. For centuries, ancient cultures believed in a collective consciousness that interlinks all beings. Indigenous tribes, for example, spoke of a spiritual network that united all living things, while Buddhist and Hindu practices explore the notion of a universal mind. Could it be that current scientific discoveries are just beginning to understand what these ancient wisdoms have suspected for millennia? In many African tribes and shamanic traditions, a form of universal mind is said to connect all community members through feelings, intuitions, and even dreams. In these cultures, knowledge and emotions are not seen as individual, but rather shared among everyone. In rituals, the shaman accesses this collective consciousness in moments of trance, bringing the tribe advice and wisdom from a place where all minds interconnect. Modern science may well be investigating what these people have known for centuries. This geomagnetic field exerts a constant influence on us. It permeates our bodies and minds, subtly and invisibly impacting us. Imagine the impact when this geomagnetic field, combined with the magnetic field generated by our brains, begins creating a unique condition conducive to global resonance. Studies suggest that the interaction of all human brains, synchronized in a similar geomagnetic environment, could create something close to a holographic mind, an interconnection where each part reflects the whole, and the whole reflects each part. It would take only 10 minutes for information or experience to propagate among all human brains, especially during altered states of consciousness, such as sleep. Consequences for privacy and individual freedom. Now consider what this means for privacy and individuality. In a world where thoughts and emotions are accessible and shareable, the concept of privacy as we know it would simply cease to exist. Our minds, our secrets, and our vulnerabilities would be exposed. What would this mean for our personal freedom? How would we handle the idea that someone somewhere could access the memories we hold deep inside? Science is already beginning to explore these mental interconnection phenomena and the foundations for their occurrence. Premonition experiments, such as those conducted by Stanley Krippner, provide intriguing examples of this possibility. In dream studies, participants sleeping in one room could describe images that someone else observed in a separate environment. On nights of low geomagnetic activity, the dream descriptions strikingly matched the images observed by the other person, suggesting a remote connection. Do we really influence each other's dreams and thoughts? These experiments raise a crucial question. How prepared are we to deal with the ethical implications of accessing someone else's mind? Imagine the repercussions if this technology fell into the wrong hands. Governments and corporations could use this mental network to manipulate our emotions and thoughts, making each of us vulnerable to invisible influences. Privacy would become a distant memory in a world where everyone's consciousness intertwines. Historical references to other mental connection experiences. In practical terms, other intriguing research explores the possibilities of mental communication. In the 1970s, the US government funded Project Stargate, an experiment to develop remote viewing abilities where supposedly spies could access information from a distance using only the mind. Figures like Ingo Swann participated in these studies, reporting surprising successes in perceiving locations and objects without any direct visual contact. These experiences lend credibility to the notion of mental communication and challenge conventional understanding of the human mind's limits. The depth of mental connection, explorations in science and spirituality. The idea of a universal mind goes back to ancient wisdom and intuitions that seem to guide cultures of the past. Indigenous people, Hindus, Buddhists, and even the ancient Greeks had notions pointing to an essential unity connecting not only human minds, but also the nature around them. In Hinduism, for example, there is the concept of Akasha, a kind of spiritual ether, where all of humanity's memories and thoughts reside. For Hindus, this invisible field would be like a repository of everything that has been lived, accessible to those who train their minds for this purpose. In the West, the concept of the collective unconscious was explored by Swiss psychologist Carl Jung, who suggested that all human minds share a repository of common memories and archetypes that do not arise from personal experience, but from a deep ancestral connection. Jung believed that certain patterns and symbols in our dreams and culture stem from a shared source to which we are all connected by invisible ties. Although discussed within psychology, this collective unconscious begins to make sense in a scientific context when considering the hypothesis that geomagnetic fields might be the physical medium for this connection between minds. The ethical questions. What would it be like to live in a completely transparent society? Now imagine the impact of this technology on our daily lives. If every thought, every idea, and every intention were accessible to everyone, concepts like secrecy, privacy, and even identity would change drastically. In a world where mental communication is common, our personal relationships would need to reinvent themselves, as secrets and barriers between people would practically cease to exist. Freedom of thought, something intimate and personal, could become collective. Would we be ready to give up this private space of the mind? With this technology, society would face complex dilemmas. We would need to define boundaries on what is or isn't acceptable to share mentally. Governments and corporations could monitor or manipulate not only our words and actions, but also our thoughts. Imagine a scenario where an authority could monitor the thoughts of an entire population, filtering and punishing ideas considered dangerous or subversive. Freedom of thought, one of the most essential concepts for human individuality, would be threatened in unprecedented ways. Furthermore, the idea of direct mental communication would call into question the very concept of truth. In many cultures, truth is something interpreted and contextualized, influenced by our emotions, experiences, and beliefs. However, in a society where everyone could access each other's thoughts, individual truth could be questioned, transforming what is real into something less personal and more collective. It could be the end of my perspective and the beginning of a shared truth. How would we handle the fact that our thoughts could be seen, interpreted, and even judged by everyone around us? Secret investigations, Project Stargate, and the exploration of remote viewing. These ethical and philosophical questions have already been explored in secret experiments over the years. During the Cold War, the United States funded a series of studies known as Project Stargate, which aimed to develop remote viewing abilities. Scientists and military personnel believed that certain individuals could see distant locations without physically being there, simply by connecting their minds to a specific mental frequency. Ingo Swann, one of the main participants in Project Stargate, reported experiences that challenged traditional scientific understanding. In supervised experiments, Swann described locations and objects with precision, even while in closed, monitored rooms. At the time, the US government hoped this ability could be used for espionage to locate enemy bases or predict attacks. But what really caught attention was the accuracy of Swann's descriptions, even when Earth's magnetic field was stable. These experiments brought to light possibilities that remain the subject of debate, raising questions about the true potential of the human mind. Over the decades, these investigations remain classified due to controversy and difficulty explaining them. However, as we uncover more about the connection between brains and magnetic fields, we may begin to understand that phenomena like remote viewing are not mere fiction, but perhaps a real ability we have yet to fully comprehend. Today, these studies are widely documented, revealing a world where the human mind may transcend physical limits, proving that we may already possess the tools for mental communication. Other cultures and ancient wisdoms on connection and interdependence. In addition to Project Stargate, studying ancient cultures reveals that the idea of an interconnected mind is not new. African tribes, for example, practice what they call shared intelligence. When a group gathers, it is common for everyone to focus on the same intention, accessing what they call collective wisdom to solve problems and make decisions for the benefit of the tribe. In healing ceremonies, the tribe's shaman leads rituals in a trance state, mentally communicating with spirits and, according to belief, with the minds of the tribe members, accessing what is hidden. Eastern cultures also have their version of a mind network. In Japan, practices like Zen Buddhism explore the concept of the original mind, a mind that does not belong to a specific individual, but flows through everything. In India, the idea of samadhi represents a state where the individual mind dissolves, connecting to a universal consciousness. These elevated mental states were sought by sages and meditators who, through specific techniques, could tune into the so-called universal source of knowledge and intuition. Impact and dilemmas for the future, the technology of collective consciousness. With modern science beginning to investigate what these cultures intuited, new challenges and possibilities emerge. The geomagnetic field, now explored as a possible vehicle for mind interconnection, represents both a hope and a dilemma. While some scientists see this technology as a tool for collective advancement, others warn of the dangers of mental manipulation and mass control. Imagine a future where governments could program thoughts in a population, altering not only perception of events, but the mental reality of individuals. People could be led to believe in a fabricated truth, with no possibility of questioning it, as their minds would be in sync with an imposed narrative. This manipulation could be subtle and invisible, becoming almost undetectable to those unaware of being under influence. The effects of mass mental manipulation would be devastating for personal freedom and autonomy. If minds were interconnected and monitored, how would we be able to distinguish our own ideas from those imposed by an external power? This scenario raises profound ethical questions, as it would mean the end of mental privacy and the beginning of an era where individuality is sacrificed for collective control. Beyond the human mind's reach, quantum connections and opportunities for science. With research by Dr. Persinger and his collaborators, we begin exploring the possibility that Earth's geomagnetic field allows almost telepathic communication through resonance between brains. Brain resonance experiments indicate that at certain frequencies, the human brain can synchronize with others, facilitating the transmission of thoughts and emotions. This phenomenon is similar to what quantum physics describes as quantum entanglement, a state where interconnected particles influence each other regardless of distance. Quantum physics explores a world where physical separation does not prevent the connection between particles. Quantum entanglement occurs when two particles, separated by astronomical distances, influence each other instantly, without any physical means of communication. Imagine if this phenomenon were applicable to human minds, enabling our thoughts to instantly influence other minds around the world. This type of quantum connection is studied in laboratories and presents extraordinary implications, making us reflect on the true limits of communication. Dr. Persinger's experiments and those of other neuroscientists seek evidence that, in an adequate state of resonance, human brains can replicate this entanglement. If confirmed, the effect would enable a new form of connection, where minds communicate beyond physical space. This phenomenon would suggest that human brains possess unexplored potential, capable of connecting to other brains and creating a collective consciousness network. Global-scale mental interconnection, practical consequences and implications for society. The possibility of global-scale mental interconnection brings numerous practical and philosophical implications. If billions of human minds form a unique network, where each person's thoughts, memories, and experiences are accessible to others, what does this truly mean for the concept of society? What could happen to the structures that rely on exclusive information, such as the financial system, corporations, and national security institutions? Currently, communication networks connect us in real time, but we are still limited by physical and technological barriers. Now imagine if we no longer needed devices like cell phones, computers, or any other equipment to exchange information. We could share information and ideas solely through the power of the mind, connected by Earth's geomagnetic field. This level of interconnection would have a profound impact, capable of transforming the economic and social foundations of the entire world. Imagine that anyone could access specialized knowledge instantly. Trainee doctors could learn from the best professionals worldwide by simply tuning their minds. Engineers, scientists, and even artists could share skills and techniques in real time. Professions would no longer be individual endeavors, becoming part of a collective network where knowledge is not limited by physical or technological boundaries. Impact on the economy and government power. A scenario of mental interconnection would also bring significant changes to power structures. Currently, access to exclusive information provides strategic and economic advantages. Banks, investment firms, and large corporations maintain their power based on privileged knowledge. In a society where everyone could access any information directly from others' minds, these knowledge monopolies would cease to exist. This could mean the end of the large disparities in power, wealth, and influence. Another point worth considering is the structure of government and military. Today, governments rely on secrecy to protect national interests and ensure security. If everyone could access the actions and intentions of governments, how would this alter political dynamics and international relations? Maintaining secret strategies in a world where minds are intertwined would be challenging. While this transparency holds promise, it also represents a tremendous challenge, as the lack of secrecy could compromise the security of entire nations. For many, the idea of living in a society where power is decentralized and everyone has access to the same knowledge is utopian. However, it also brings real concerns. How would we cope with a world where no information can be hidden, where everyone can access each other's thoughts and secrets? Total transparency, while seemingly fair, might lead to disorder, conflicts, and even violence, as not everyone is ready to handle the hidden truths of others. Privacy and individual freedom in an era of mental interconnection. If the human mind ceases to be a private space and becomes part of a collective network, the impact on our individuality and freedom would be immense. Privacy, a concept we still consider a fundamental right, would almost entirely disappear. Today, the mind is the last bastion of freedom, where we can still be ourselves, free from external scrutiny. In a society where thoughts and memories can be shared, the very notion of self would be redefined. A profound philosophical question arises here. Would we still have a unique identity in a world where our thoughts are constantly influenced by those of others? Would we be truly independent beings, or merely fragments of a collective mind? For many, this interconnection would signify the end of individual autonomy, while others might see it as the height of human collaboration. This dilemma of individuality versus collectivity would be one of the most challenging issues for an interconnected society. Imagine, for example, the changes in personal relationships. Couples, families, and friends already share parts of their thoughts and feelings through words, gestures, and looks. But if all thoughts were visible and interpretable, human relationships would have to reinvent themselves. Imagine couples who know exactly what the other is thinking, or friends who access each other's most intimate memories. This new type of relationship could strengthen bonds, but also destroy connections, as trust would transform into a fusion of minds. Collective consciousness technology, evolution or danger. The technology behind this mental connection brings not only new opportunities, but also potential dangers. If all minds are connected in a collective network, who controls this network? Would it operate autonomously and decentralized? Or would there be an entity able to manipulate how we think? Critics argue that in the wrong hands, this technology could become the most powerful control tool ever created. Imagine a technology that allows direct influence over what a person thinks and feels. This could be used to shape behaviors, create unquestionable loyalties, and even manipulate the emotions of entire populations. In such a scenario, mental privacy would be an impossible luxury, and freedom of thought could be controlled by those who dominate this technology. The concept of free will and personal autonomy could be entirely altered, and individuals would lose control over their own minds. The potential for large-scale psychological manipulation also raises the possibility that collective knowledge and memory could be adjusted and manipulated. A single narrative could be imposed on everyone, shaping society according to the interests of a few. In an interconnected society, who would have the right to decide what is true or false? How would we distinguish individual memory from collective memory? Quantum entanglement in non-local connections. The science behind the phenomenon. The phenomenon of mental interconnection has, in a way, already been demonstrated in quantum physics. Quantum entanglement suggests that particles separated by great distances can sense each other and respond simultaneously without any physical means of communication. Albert Einstein referred to this as spooky action at a distance, but experiments have shown that the phenomenon is real. Although quantum entanglement is generally limited to subatomic particles, many researchers wonder if it could also occur on a neurological level. Applying quantum entanglement to neuroscience could mean a form of instant communication between brains, regardless of physical distance. Imagine our brains are able to tune into each other, not just through the geomagnetic field, but also via quantum entanglement. This type of communication could explain phenomena such as telepathy and premonitions, and open doors to a much broader understanding of the human mind. Advanced research in physics and neuroscience indicates that perhaps our minds are much more interconnected with the universe than we imagined. If the human mind can connect with Earth's magnetic field, and potentially with other brains, it implies that human consciousness is closely intertwined with the structure of the cosmos itself. These studies suggest that our individual experiences might only be a fraction of a larger universal consciousness, offering new perspectives on philosophical questions about existence. Psychic impulses and studies on synchronicity phenomena. An interesting phenomenon that may be related to mental interconnection is synchronicity. Carl Jung, one of the 20th century's greatest psychologists, described synchronicity as meaningful coincidences, events without an obvious causal link, but with profound personal significance for those involved. Jung believed that these coincidences are manifestations of the collective unconscious, reflecting a hidden connection among our minds. Imagine if synchronicity were, in fact, the result of an active mental connection between people, an effect of resonance that occurs when minds are in tune. This resonance could explain why people think of the same things at the same time, or feel that a coincidence seems personal and meaningful. Synchronicity could be seen as an expression of universal interconnection, where events and minds align in a moment of shared perception. The phenomena of synchronicity and mental interconnection suggests that the human mind may be more powerful and complex than we've ever imagined. It wouldn't be surprising if, through deeper investigation, we discover that we're all connected by a field of energy that transcends space and time, as suggested by theories of geomagnetic fields and quantum entanglement. The evolution of consciousness. Where could this journey lead us? If we accept the possibility that human minds are interconnected through a geomagnetic field, it's inevitable to consider the future of our consciousness's evolution. Could this mental network represent an advanced stage of our evolution? Is humanity on the path to a stage where individual consciousness gives way to collective consciousness? For many, this represents the next step in our evolutionary journey. A collective consciousness would enable each individual to be in harmony with the whole, helping to resolve global issues more quickly and efficiently. Imagine a world where hunger, wars, and conflicts are resolved by a single collective mind capable of making decisions that benefit everyone. This type of evolution could bring about an era of peace and prosperity never before seen, as national and individual boundaries would disappear. However, at the same time, this evolution toward a collective consciousness could mean the loss of the self as we know it. A future of collective consciousness, utopia or dilemma for humanity. The idea of a universal collective consciousness, where everyone shares thoughts and emotions, may sound like an ideal utopia. In a world without secrets, where everyone has direct access to each other's minds, it would be possible to reach a level of understanding and empathy that transcends any difference. However, this utopian vision also brings profound dilemmas. To what extent would we sacrifice our individuality in the name of mental unity? Could we find a balance between I and we? Imagine that a critical decision, once made individually, becomes shared, weighed by all minds involved in a network. Issues that were once personal choices, like career, relationships, or beliefs, might be seen as collective decisions where the community has a voice. This transformation would mean the end of individual freedom as we know it, as any decision would be subject to the opinion of the entire mental network. On the other hand, this vision offers unique opportunities to solve major global issues. Complex problems such as climate change, extreme poverty, and pandemics could be resolved swiftly and efficiently, as all the planet's resources and knowledge would be accessible to everyone. A single brain could tap into the expertise and knowledge of billions, creating innovative solutions and enabling progress in ways that seem impossible today. Technology and control. Who controls the collective mind? However, with this potential unification of minds, an unavoidable question arises. Who would control this immense mental network? In a society where everyone shares thoughts, feelings, and memories, the power to manipulate or influence the collective mind could become the most potent weapon ever known. A small group with access to the necessary technology could exercise a form of absolute control over humanity, deciding which thoughts and information are shared and which are suppressed. The risks of power abuse become even more apparent when we consider the possibility of large-scale emotional and mental manipulation. Imagine if someone with access to this technology could induce certain thoughts or emotions in large populations, shaping behaviors and attitudes according to specific interests. Emotions, which we consider a deeply personal aspect, could be programmed, leading the masses to feel hope, fear, or loyalty is dictated by whoever controls the mental network. This scenario echoes some literary dystopias, where thought control is a central element of domination. In a world where mental interconnection technology is manipulated, people could be led to believe in fabricated realities without the capacity to question. Freedom of thought and expression, one of democracy's fundamental pillars, would disappear entirely in a world where every thought is controlled by a single entity. Culture and identity in an era of mental unity. Culture, like identity, is shaped by a set of experiences, memories, and traditions unique to each group or individual. In a society where minds are interconnected, these cultural distinctions may dissolve, giving rise to a global culture, a unified set of shared beliefs and values. While this could create a more cohesive and harmonious society, it also raises questions about losing the cultural particularities that define humanity. Cultural diversity is one of the richest aspects of human experience, and many people fear that a universal collective consciousness might erase the traditions and customs that make each culture unique. Languages, music, dances, stories, and practices passed down from generation to generation could lose their value and be replaced by a homogeneous cultural identity. Plurality, which often fosters innovation, learning, and a deeper understanding of life, could be overshadowed in favor of mental unity. Additionally, the notion of personal identity would become more fluid and complex. People might feel less attached to an individual self and more connected to a collective identity. This new sense of identity could lead to a redefinition of what it means to be human, as the boundaries between individuals and the collective grow increasingly thin. Instead of thinking in terms of me and them, humanity would start to think in terms of us, a single global unit. Yet this unification could also mean the loss of what we now consider to be our individual essence: spirituality and mental interconnection, new perspectives on the soul and the infinite. For many spiritual traditions, the idea of an interconnected mind is nothing new. Religions and philosophies worldwide have explored the concept of a spiritual unity that connects all beings for millennia. Buddhism, for instance, teaches that the separation between individuals is an illusion and that we are all part of a single consciousness. In Hinduism, the concept of Brahman describes the idea of a universal soul that permeates everything and everyone. Similarly, Sufism, a mystical branch of Islam, teaches the pursuit of unity with the divine, where the individual self disappears and becomes part of a greater whole. In the context of mental interconnection, spirituality could take on new meanings. The experiences of transcendence and unity sought by many through meditation and prayer could become part of everyday life. The feeling of being one with the universe would no longer be a sensation reserved for a few, but a daily reality for everyone in the mental network. The very notion of soul could be seen as something shared, where the experiences and memories of one life belong not only to the individual, but to the entire collective. This new spirituality could also bring unprecedented challenges. If we are all connected to a universal consciousness, how would we understand concepts like guilt, redemption, or even personal purpose? In many religious traditions, the soul is something unique and individual, carrying the marks of one's actions and choices in life. But in a world where all minds are interconnected, the notions of karma, or the afterlife, would change. Individuality, essential to understanding personal destiny, would give way to a broader, shared view of existence. Science and the unknown, exploring the limits of consciousness. For science, the idea of a collective consciousness remains an enigma. Studies on the human mind and the geomagnetic field are only beginning to reveal the possibilities of communication and resonance between brains. Cutting-edge research in neuroscience and quantum physics suggests there's more to learn about the human mind than we ever imagined. Scientists studying the brain and its interactions with Earth's magnetic field are discovering that our thoughts might be intertwined with the cosmos itself. Some researchers believe Earth's magnetic field might act as a conductor for mental activity. The global resonance theory, for instance, suggests that at certain frequencies, brain activity can sync with the geomagnetic field, creating a connection that transcends space and time. This could lead to a new understanding of the mind as something not confined to the human body, but something that interacts and connects with the universe in ways we're only now beginning to uncover. Quantum physics also presents new possibilities for understanding this interconnection. If subatomic particles can connect and influence each other instantly, as quantum entanglement suggests, it's possible that human neurons might establish similar connections. This would open doors to a new form of mental communication, where thoughts and emotions could be exchanged on a universal scale. Where do we go from here? The evolution of humanity in a new era. If humanity truly is on the brink of an era of mental interconnection, this represents the beginning of a new evolutionary stage. We may be entering a phase where cooperation and unity become fundamental principles of human life. This advancement would signify an evolutionary leap, where we leave behind competition and selfishness in favor of a collective consciousness that benefits everyone. However, this future also brings enormous challenges. Will we be able to create a society that respects both the individual and the collective? Can we prevent power abuses and ensure fair and ethical access to this mental network for all? Evolving into a collective consciousness could be the next step on the human journey, but it also requires immense maturity and responsibility. Ultimately, mental interconnection challenges us to rethink what it means to be human. As we enter this new era, we'll need to redefine concepts like freedom, identity, and privacy. Human experience, once isolated and limited to the individual, is expanding to encompass the entire collective. Individuality merges with the whole, and humanity becomes a network of interconnected minds, exploring the unknown and creating the future. You've made it to this point and have been part of a reflection on humanity's future. The mysteries of the human mind, the geomagnetic field, and the invisible connections that unite us. This was not merely an exercise in imagination. It was an exploration of possibilities that could completely transform our understanding of life and consciousness. Thank you for dedicating your time to reflect on these ideas, which may seem unusual, yet hold deep potential for change. As we continue to explore and investigate, who knows what else we'll discover about our minds, Earth's magnetic field, and the connections that unite us all? By sharing this moment of reflection, you join a lineage of explorers, people who dare to look beyond the visible, who question and challenge the boundaries of the known. Let's continue this journey together, exploring what it truly means to be human and where this adventure may lead us. Leave a comment on these scientific discoveries, like the video, and subscribe to Your Magic Life so you don't miss any content.